Prologue. Stacie POV. I locked up the diner and made my way home. Mom had texted me earlier, telling me to hurry back. I didn't know what she was so worried about, but I knew I shouldn't go against her order. The diner I worked at was close to my house, and my dad always worried that something would happen if I went away from home for a long time. I guess you could say my parents were overprotective. The diner owner didn't need any workers, but since he and my parents went to high school together, he gave me the job in seconds. I lived a simple life, and I loved everything about it. I parked my car in the driveway of my home and pulled out my house keys. Before I could even unlock the front door, my parents opened it and pulled me inside. I was dragged to the couch where they both started talking. Their worried expressions scared me. I could barely understand what they were saying until Mom finally stopped talking loudly and let Dad finish. Stacie, the alpha is coming, and he's looking for his partner. Worry consumed me. I knew the alpha wouldn't choose me, but I still felt bad for the rest of the girls in town. I couldn't deal with this right now. College and work were enough stress as is. This may sound selfish, but luckily, there are many beautiful girls in town, and for the first time, I'm actually glad I'm not one of them. I hoped that the alpha would pick his partner as soon as possible and get out of our lives. Personally, I had never met a werewolf before, but they must be intimidating. I mean, they are powerful. What else should we humans expect from them? Chapter 1. Stacie POV. Everyone in town was preparing for the arrival of the wolves. Personally, I hated it. The town streets were being decorated as if this were a holiday. The restaurants in town were staying open later than usual, and the girls were acting as if they had never seen a man before. From what I heard, I understood that this alpha was no regular man. He's been searching for his partner for a while now, but still hasn't found the right girl. Judging from the short dresses that half the town's female population has been purchasing, I think he'll find his girl here. I didn't want to pay too much attention to all this. I just wanted the alpha to see his partner and leave us all alone. I felt sympathy for the girl he ends up selecting. Finally, the sun started to set, and it was time to go home. I eyed the town and shook my head. Why is everyone so excited about this? Aren't we supposed to be cautious of the werewolves? Maybe it was their fear of them that was making them act this way. I wouldn't let my fear make me act a certain way, but that's me. I showered and got ready for bed. No one knew exactly what day the alpha and his pack would be here, but we did see that it would be sometime this week. I closed my eyes, feeling multiple emotions wash over me. I wonder if they're as formidable as they sound. It had to be a bit past midnight when I heard banging on my bedroom door. I jumped out of bed only to land on my face. That's definitely going to leave a mark. Stacie, the wolves are here. They're at the city hall. Mom's frantic voice notified me when I finally swung the door open. My heart dropped. Are they already here? The town must be going nuts right now. Since I didn't bother purchasing a new dress because I don't want the alpha to notice me, I ran to my closet and pulled out a pair of blue jeans and a black sweater. Hoping I wasn't already late, I threw my hair in a ponytail, grabbed my shoes, and left the house. Our city hall was full. This was my first time seeing a werewolf, and let me tell you, boy, are they beautiful. The men and women were breathtaking. I went to stand next to my friends when I noticed that all the young females from town were standing in a line. Compared to them, I looked unremarkable. When did they have time to fix themselves up like this? It was midnight, for God's sake. I stood at the end of the line and waited to hear that I could go home. I hadn't seen the alpha yet, and I didn't want to. A man who looked like he was in his early 20s was holding a clipboard and walking down the line, taking all our names. Was this the alpha? As if reading my thoughts, he looked right at me and said, "I am Beta Allen. The alpha is here, but he is watching from afar. He will be joining us in a few minutes." Just like that, he walked away from all of us and joined the group of wolves. Those minutes felt like hours. I stood there wishing I had brought my phone or at least my iPod. All the girls who were lined up started complaining that the high heels they were wearing were making their feet ache. I'm glad I wore my Converse. I looked down at them and noticed my left shoelace was untied. Just as I bent down to tie it, I heard footsteps. Still bent down, I lifted my head only to listen. "I want her." And just like that, All heads snapped in my direction. Chapter 2. Barry POV. The girls here were just like the ones I saw elsewhere. They tried too hard. I understand that most girls want me to choose them as my partner because of my influence, but I want a girl with pure intentions so she can be a good mother to my pups later on. I stayed in my place for now. My wolf demands I take a girl from here. He's starting to get restless, and honestly, so was I. We both wanted our partner. Our partner would be treated like a queen. She would be good not only for us, but also for my entire pack. A scent caught me off guard. I've never smelled anything as sweet. I looked over the crowd and saw what I least expected. She looked like she just wanted this to be over. Her long legs were covered in plain blue jeans, and she hid herself in a baggy black sweater. I didn't care about what she wore. Her eyes and scent were what caught my attention. Those innocent blue eyes had me mesmerized. I just had to have her. My wolf was pushing me to run to her and make her ours, but judging from the look on her face, I knew I'd have to wait. I approached the crowd when the line of humans started complaining. I could see my partner smirk at the girls, probably glad she wasn't wearing high heels. I got stares from everyone as I stood at the front of the line, except my little partner. Does she really resent me that much that she can't even look at me? What did I even do to her? She was no longer standing in her spot when I looked at the end of the line, and my beast wanted to take over, to find her, but then I saw her bent down tying her shoes. My beast and I relaxed. I took that as my time to finally speak and let everyone who was staring at me know who I really was. I want her. All heads turned to see who I was pointing at, and just like that, my partner looked up and appeared like a deer caught in the headlights. She's going to be angry when I take her. Chapter 3. Stacie POV. I stared up in horror as the alpha and the entire crowd looked at me. Praying that there was anyone, standing behind me, I turned around only to see that no one was there. Why the hell is he choosing me when there are all these girls willing to be his? It's not that I didn't think the alpha was attractive. Believe me, anyone with eyes would agree with me on that one. It was the fact that I wouldn't last a minute in the world of werewolves. Did he not see that? I can't leave my life here. What will happen to my parents? Several minutes passed by, and no one had said a word. All I got were stares. Finally finding my voice, I cleared my throat and said, "I think you made a mistake." Gasps filled the air, but when I looked over at the alpha, he held my gaze as if he was daring me to repeat what I had just said. I slowly put my head down, afraid of catching his gaze again. When I heard footsteps, I thought the alpha and his followers were taking their leave. Instead, I was approached by someone. I could feel the power radiating from this person. His boots were black as the night, and, before I could look up to see him, his hands cupped my cheeks. His palms were warm and rough against my smooth skin. I made no mistake. I want you, and that means I will have you. I stayed silent as my eyes met bright brown ones filled with so many emotions, making me want to run back home and forget everything that happened tonight. I wasn't sure if I was even holding myself up right now. The alpha brought his face directly in front of mine and spoke slowly. "You're mine now." I guess that was when everything came crashing down on me because I took one look at the alpha's face and took off running as fast as I could. I heard fierce sounds coming from behind me. I knew I couldn't outrun the werewolves, but that didn't mean I was willing to go down without a fight. Chapter 4. Stacie POV. I woke up in my bed. Well, that was a horrid dream. I wouldn't even call it a dream, more like a nightmare. I could hear voices from outside. Pushing my head deeper into my pillow, I tried to keep the townspeople's voices as far away as I could. I stayed in bed a bit longer and soon drifted back to sleep. This time, when I woke up, someone was holding my hand. I turned to see why Mom or Dad would be in my room right now, but came face to face with the alpha from my nightmare. I let out multiple screams while trying to snatch my hand from his hold, but he seemed unfazed and squeezed my hand until I couldn't feel my fingers. Acting like a child won't help you get away from me. It was then that I realized that my nightmare wasn't really a nightmare. Last night really did happen. I started screaming again, begging him to let me go, but he refused. "Where are my parents? Did you hurt them? So help me God, if you hurt them, I will kill you." I was trying so hard not to cry. Yes, I'll admit this man could overpower me in a second, and yes, I was afraid right now, but I would never let anyone hurt my family. The alpha chuckled, and dare I say he looked gorgeous? Oh my, I must have hit my head pretty hard. His voice brought me out of my thoughts. Your parents and everyone else are fine. It's you I'm worried about. After you ran last night, I tackled you. I'm sure you hit your head. Let me take a look at it. Leaving no room for argument, he grabbed my face and studied it to the point where I felt uncomfortable with it. As if sensing my discomfort, he let go of my face and turned my body as if I weighed nothing so that he could look at the back of my head. Would you be willing to choose another girl to be your partner? We were now sitting on the couch in my living room, while my parents acted like they were busy cooking dinner. I bet they're listening to our conversation from the other side of the door. I chose you as my partner because I don't want anyone else, I only want you. He stated firmly as if my question bothered him. Well, I don't want to be your partner, I replied. My stubborn personality wouldn't let him order me around. The growl that emitted from him had me shaking in fear. This guy is intense. I want you. You are mine. Nothing and no one will stop me from having you. I will have someone start packing your things because first thing tomorrow morning we're leaving. With that, he stood up from the couch and left the house. Before I made it out of the living room, I was already being wrapped in my parents' arms. This time, I didn't hesitate to cry. I don't want to go anywhere with that alpha. How am I supposed to live with him for the rest of my life? What will happen to my parents? My friends? Myself? Chapter 5. Stacie POV. I wish I could go back in time and become a child again. Kids are so lucky. They're innocent and have no worries in life. Dealing with all this is driving me crazy. In just 2 hours, the alpha, whose name I still don't know, will be here to take me to his house, or as he called it, our house. He's definitely not taking no for an answer, and every time I ask him to pick a different partner, he starts making fierce sounds and leaves the room. Since he's so good at leaving, why doesn't he leave town? My parents and I were hurting. I've never slept anywhere that my parents wouldn't be. We've been under the same roof since the day I was born. When I was younger and my friends wanted to have sleepovers, they would always be at my house. It sounds sheltered, I'm 20 years old, but I've come to terms with that. Yesterday was a hard day for us. When I started crying in their arms, they cried too. Dad apologized over and over again about not being strong enough to go against the alpha, and Mom cried, wishing she could do something to make him change his mind. I would ask the alpha to let them come with us, but I don't trust the wolves. They're unpredictable. I would never risk my parents' lives just for my comfort. While I looked over my packed bags, tears began forming in my eyes. A knock on my door forced me to wipe my eyes, hoping the person wouldn't notice. I got up and opened the door. The alpha stood there, taking deep breaths. Why are you crying? Did he not realize he was the reason for all this? He cupped my face in a sweet gesture, but I couldn't be comfortable with his touch when he was the reason for my pain. Why would I be crying? My life is great, don't you think? A werewolf claims me as his while I'm completely against the idea, yet he refuses to let me go. I knew tears were streaming down my face. I hadn't even noticed that I was gently hitting the alpha's chest while I released my feelings. I expected him to lash out at me, or at least fight back, but he looked unfazed by my actions. When I finally managed to calm myself down, I made my way over to my bed and sat down. I looked up at the alpha and noticed him take a seat at my desk. When he looked up at me, his eyes flashed with something. Worry was obvious. Are you ready? I noticed how his Adam's apple bobbed when he swallowed nervously. The sight was enough to make me laugh. Is the big, powerful alpha afraid of my reaction? His cheeks reddened a bit before he stood up, ignoring my question, and grabbed my packed clothes. We're leaving as soon as your bags are loaded in the truck. Meet me in front of your house after you say goodbye to your parents. With that being said, he slammed my door shut. I let out a heavy breath as I watched my house and my parents grow further away. The alpha and his beta sat in the front of the truck, while I sat in the back next to 2 female wolves. My mind was telling me that I would make it through this, but my heart was full of fear and resentment towards a certain alpha. Chapter 6. Stacie POV. The drive back to the alpha's house was long. We had been on the road for almost an hour when I grew tired. Sleep was begging to take over, but I refused to sleep in a car full of werewolves. Finally, I heard the alpha say, "We have entered pack grounds." I always hated long car rides. A few minutes later, we were parked in front of a house that was way too big to belong to just one person. I was happy to be back on my feet since my legs had fallen asleep throughout that long journey. Standing outside the house made me feel disoriented. I don't know where my room is, where the alpha is, or where anyone is actually. Knowing that there was no way I could walk home without dying, I decided it would be best to sit in the garden. I've always loved flowers. They're unique and can cheer anyone up. I don't know how long I stayed in the garden, but I guess sleep had won its battle and took over, because when I woke up, I was in a bed. How did I get here? Obviously, someone carried me in here, but who? I hoped it wasn't that alpha. The room I was in had dark blue walls, it was spacious, and it had only one window. Just as I tried to get out of bed, I felt something, or should I say someone, pull me into their arms. I slowly turned around only to see the alpha lying down next to me. I screamed and hit his arm, causing him to wake up and jump out of bed. His stance looked as if he was ready to attack someone, but when he looked around and saw that I was the only one in the room with him, his eyes darkened, and he walked over to sit on the sofa that was in the room. Realizing my mistake, I quickly mumbled an apology. I stood up and walked towards the window. This alpha's backyard was huge. I thought about how my parents always wanted a house with a big yard. My family wasn't poor, but we weren't rich either. Remembering my family, tears pooled in my eyes, and I quickly wiped them away, aware that the alpha was currently in the room. Realizing that I have done nothing but cry these past few days made me want to stop being so weak. I needed to prove myself to these wolves and show them that, although I am human, I am a lot stronger than they think. Hearing footsteps snapped me out of my thoughts. I looked up and saw the alpha was in front of me. Thinking he'd be angry at me for always crying, I flinched, picturing how he'd take out his anger. What I least expected was for him to sit down on his knees and start talking slowly. "You may hate me right now, and I hate myself for putting you through this, but you need to understand that you were made for me. Without you, my pack will fall apart, my kind, we'd all die. My pack deserves to have their alpha and Luna lead them, but I need you to stand by my side and support us. I'm sorry for being the person who is hurting you. Believe me, you have no idea how much I wish I could just let you go, but my wolf needs you, we all do." It was apparent he wasn't used to apologizing. He let out a deep breath before continuing. "I am an alpha, and an alpha never apologizes to anyone, but look at me sitting on my knees asking you to forgive me, to give me a chance, to give my pack a chance." Chapter 7. Barry POV. I wasn't even mad that I was begging Stacie to give me a chance. She is my partner, and I will do anything to have her stay with me. I hated being the reason behind her tears. I sat in front of her like a child, waiting for her answer. She stayed silent, and I wanted nothing more than to hold her in my arms and tell her that we'd work out, that we'd be good for each other. Her silence was killing me slowly. Trying to save myself and my wolf the ounce of pride we had left, I got up and walked out of my bedroom. I guess my pack and I were going to suffer. A pack meeting was being held in my office, that was in my house. I had an office a couple of miles from my home, but because I didn't want to leave Stacie alone, I decided to hold it here. I avoided the topic of Stacie as much as I could. The last thing I needed was for my pack to find out she didn't care about my kind. They'd probably lose control and try to harm her. Right now, my beta and I are discussing whether we want to extend my pack's territory and how we could get the neighboring pack to agree to our request. Paperwork and maps were covering my desk. My wolf was restless. He needed to go for a run to release all the stress, but only one thing, or a female, could help me get rid of the stress, and she couldn't stand the sight of me. A fierce sound ripped through my chest. I was angry, hurt, and mostly heartbroken. I am an alpha, yet here I am acting like she is the last girl on earth. I did nothing to make her treat me like this. I may have taken her away from her family, but I never hurt her. I gave her no reason to act immaturely. I even told her I'd allow her to see her family whenever she wants to, but she still treats me as if I'm a monster. I stood up from my chair and made my way to my bedroom. I was ready to tell Stacie she could go home, that I didn't need her. I pushed the door open only to be met by a body. Looks like she was leaving the room. Before I could tell her what I originally came up to say, she started talking. "I'll give us a chance." And, just like that, I forgot what I even came up to do. The worries left my body. I looked at her face and saw a faint pink flush on her cheeks. I pulled her into my arms and relaxed when I felt her arms slowly wrap around my neck. I may be an alpha, and I may have only known this girl for a short period of time, but in that brief period, she found a way to have me wrapped around her little finger, and I was completely okay with that. Chapter 8. Stacie POV. After I told the alpha that I was willing to try this whole partner thing, he never left my side. Telling me that I needed to get outside, he grabbed my arm and pretty much dragged me to his backyard. I couldn't lie and say this place wasn't beautiful, because it was. Since it had gotten dark out, he had lights illuminating the place. We decided that we should take that time to get to know each other. The fact that I still didn't know his name was killing me. How were we supposed to try this relationship thing if I didn't have the guts to ask him what his name was? I kept telling him that I am 20 years old, that I used to work at a diner, and that I was enrolled in college before I was forced to come here. He promised that he would let me continue my studies, but he wanted me to take my classes online because of the dangers that came with being his partner. Thinking about how to ask him his name without sounding like an idiot had me zoning out of the conversation he was trying to keep up with. Stacie. Stacie, are you all right? My thoughts ended up disappearing as I felt my cheeks warm up at how much I liked him saying my name. Finally finding my voice, I mumbled my question, but obviously, he didn't understand what I said. "You're going to laugh, and this may make me look or sound stupid, but what is your name?" Laughter filled the yard, and I felt myself grow embarrassed. I should have just asked someone else. He must have sensed my feelings because his laughter died down. "You have every right to ask that question." I'm disappointed in myself for not realizing this earlier. My name is Barry White, and I'm 22 years old. Barry. I tested his name on my tongue. He made a low sound, making me jump back. When I looked up at him, I could see desire swiveling in his eyes, but it was gone as soon as he saw my scared expression. "I'm sorry, Stacie, but you have no idea the effect you have on me. I'm not going to lie, I want you, but I will never pressure you into intimacy until I know you're comfortable and ready." My cheeks burned with embarrassment. I was never good with guys. Barry walked up to me and cupped my cheeks. He let out a low, deep sound that rumbled through his chest. "Your innocence is captivating." If possible, I felt myself blush even more when he pulled me into his embrace, leaving my head to rest on his muscular chest. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad after all. Chapter 9. Stacie POV. Since Barry and I agreed to take things slow, I requested to sleep in my own room. He was angry, and at first, he completely ignored my request, but surprisingly, I was able to convince him. I was actually starting to like it here. It's been a week, and although I've missed my family, I've kept in touch with them over the phone and Skype. Barry is great, actually, and I couldn't believe I was admitting that. He has been planning our first date and refuses to tell me anything about it. I know it'll be amazing. I'm curious as to why he's been planning it for 3 days now. It'll be huge. I told him that I didn't like flashy things, so he had to keep that in mind. I wish he'd listen to me and agree to me cooking dinner for him, but he wants me to be relaxed on our first date. I was sitting on my bed with my phone in my hands when I heard deep sounds and shouts coming from outside. I jumped off my bed, not knowing what to do. My heart was beating faster than usual. I had so many different thoughts running through my mind. I needed to find Barry. He'd know what to do. I ran through the house. Its size still amazed me. "Barry, Barry, where are you?" I got no answer. The living room was a mess. What the hell happened? I went against what my head was telling me and ran outside. Oh, how I wish I hadn't. The scent of copper hit me like nothing I've ever smelled before. I couldn't see anything unusual, but I knew something was wrong. Worry consumed me. Where was everyone? "Barry, if this is some type of joke, I'm going to kill you." Silence followed. I walked around the house towards the garden. When I got there, I saw one of Barry's men lying on the ground. Going with my first instinct, I ran towards his body, ignoring his protests, and into the house to lock the doors. I lowered myself so I sat next to him. His eyes widened as he struggled to speak. "What's going?" I was cut off when I felt cold metal press against the back of my head. "Don't move or I will kill you." Chapter 10. Barry POV. I was planning a boat ride for my first date with Stacie. I had everything set up. We'd have a nice dinner, go for a swim, and end up spending a few nights at the hotel I own, which is on a beach. I'm sure she'll love it there. The view is beautiful. I hung up the phone after specifically telling the chef what he was allowed to cook for us. I had closed off the mind link between my pack and me because I needed to get this done. Right now, all I want to do is go home and see my partner. Shifting into my wolf automatically opened the mind link. Multiple voices started going off in my head, and I actually had to stop running so I could understand everyone. Finally, everyone stopped talking and allowed my beta to speak. Alpha. I don't know how it happened, I really don't, but hunters managed to get on pack grounds, and they got to a couple wolves. My body shook with anger. My wolf was angry about my pack members being harmed, but we were both worried about our partner. Where is Stacie? Did anyone take her to the hideout? How bad is everyone hurt? No one answered. I growled to notify them that I was going to harm them for ignoring me. I'll repeat my question. Where is Stacie? Look, Alpha, we didn't realize it until it was too late. We thought since there are so many guards around the house they wouldn't let her get hurt. I was running at full speed. My pack was going to face extreme difficulties because of this. If they think I'm letting them off the hook for this, they're wrong. Finally arriving back home, I was met by most of my pack members. No one would look at me. My beta, Alan, slowly approached me. I could tell he was afraid to say anything because he was strolling. I grabbed him by his shirt and pulled him forward. Alan, where is Stacie? He looked at the ground. Letting my anger get the best of me, I threw him to the ground and let out a snarl. I was focused on vengeance. I would pursue whoever harmed her. Someone better tell me where my partner is. Alan nervously stood back up. She's gone. They took her. Chapter 11. Stacie POV. I don't know how long I sat there frozen, not daring to make a move. Who is this person? What did they want from us? If you shift, I won't hesitate to pull the trigger. His voice was deep and raspy. This guy thought I was a wolf? I'm sorry, sir, but I'm not a werewolf, I'm human. I was expecting him to let me go, I really was. Instead, he laughed and pulled my hair into his grasp. You think I'm dumb enough to believe you? Why would a human be here? I contemplated telling him I was chosen to be the alpha's partner, but I went against that thought because then he'd really want to harm me. I needed to spare time. I knew Barry would save me. I am human. I was visiting here as a tourist. I prayed that he would buy my weak excuse. Stop lying. I was thrown to the ground. The man was angry. He genuinely believed that I was a wolf. Do I even look like one? I've got no muscle and I am afraid of everything. This man kicked me in the stomach, and I was sure it was going to bruise. I cried out each time he'd hit me. Please stop. I was spitting out blood. Didn't he notice that I wasn't healing? He kept going. Blow after blow, I felt myself getting weaker. I felt myself being lifted. The last thing I remembered was weakly shouting Barry's name. I woke up on an uncomfortable surface. Silver chains were locked on my arms and legs. I could hear voices. Why hasn't her skin burned yet? I don't know. Maybe she really is human. That's impossible. Why would she have been on their land? I'm not sure. Stop talking, she's awake. Their footsteps neared me, and fear was my initial feeling. Why hasn't Barry saved me yet? How long have I been here? What are you? The man who brought me here spoke up. I was tired of his behavior. I am human. I already told you that earlier, you fool. Judging from the look on his face, I had just angered him. His arms wrapped around my neck. I knew I was stupid. I should have kept my mouth shut. I wanted to escape this situation, and I was sure things were about to get worse. Chapter 12. Barry POV. I was losing my mind. Where was she? I'll destroy them. I'll destroy all of them. When I get her back, I am never letting her out of my sight. I could already picture her reaction and how she'll try to fight me about it. I kept myself on absolutely no sleep. I couldn't waste a second. I sent a message out to all the alphas I knew. I notified them that hunters had taken my partner and that I needed their help to find her. They all agreed. I was following multiple scents when one of the alphas contacted me. Alpha Caleb was a bit younger than I was. He still hadn't found his partner, but he was willing to help me find mine. Alpha Barry. A couple of hunters were spotted a bit away from my territory. I assume since my pack's land isn't as big as the others, they thought they'd be safe here. I gathered all my men, and we were off to that area Caleb had told me about. Caleb said he'd have a few of his men keep their eyes on them until we got there. Thanking the moon goddess that Caleb's territory wasn't far away from mine, it would take an hour or so to get there. My blood was boiling. I would completely overpower those hunters, not only for my sweet partner, but for the pack members they harmed as well. When I see Stacie, if there is anything wrong with her, I don't know what I'll do. I could feel my wolf demanding to take over, so he could show them what happens when you hurt people we care about. I will do anything for Stacie, my Stacie. As we neared Caleb's territory, I sensed Stacie. She was here. Finally arriving outside the cabin-like area, I could smell her, but I could also smell blood. Oh, those hunters were going to pay. Chapter 13. Barry POV. I shifted into my wolf and charged at the door. Nothing would keep her away from me. I was focused on vengeance. There was no sound in here. At first, I couldn't see anything. Lifting my snout, I followed her scent. I hated the mixture of copper I could smell. I was going to put those hunters through extreme difficulty. When I saw her, my heart almost stopped. My sweet Stacie was sitting on the dirty floor, covered in chains. She was unconscious. I shifted back into my human form. I quickly slipped on the pair of shorts I had made sure to bring along with me and ran to her body. I had to be careful not to touch the silver chains because they'd burn my skin. Looking down at the bruises in the shape of fingers forming around her neck brought out anger I had never felt before. Feeling like nothing was more important than holding my partner in my arms, I pulled at the chains. My fingers felt like they were on fire. I let out an agonizing scream, but I couldn't give up. I had to free her. I had to hold her. Tugging the chains harder, I managed to get them off my girl. The pain I felt didn't feel important anymore. Finally, I picked her up and sat her in my lap, my arms wrapped around her fragile body, and it was then that I realized how little she weighed. I'm sorry, baby. I promise I will make them regret this. I won't stop until I punish them. When she opened her eyes, I felt like I was in heaven. Barry? She whispered. Here I was, an alpha ready to start crying in front of my partner and the few members of my pack that came with me. I'm here, baby. I'm so sorry. She gave me a weak smile. I hated myself. How could I have let this happen? Where were the hunters? Footsteps were heard. Just then, everyone turned to the door, where two men stood, looking horrified. Looking back down at my partner one last time, I kissed her forehead and stood up straight. I was ready to combat these individuals. Chapter 14. Stacie POV. I thought I was dreaming. Was Barry really here? If I'm dreaming, I hope I never wake up. I felt safe. My body ached, and I needed a long shower, but with Barry here, I actually felt strong. I watched as Barry shifted into his wolf and attacked the men. One would think Barry was being harsh, but I wanted him to hurt them. The things they said and did to me really did hurt me. Barry's wolf was a beautiful sight. He moved with ease, his muscles flexing each time he moved. I remember how yesterday I thought I would never see him again. I was disappointed in myself for not giving him a chance to treat me like he would treat any other partner. The most we'd do is talk, but that was going to change. I was going to let myself open up to him. Barry stood over one of the men while another wolf held the second man down. The second wolf was beautiful and big, but it didn't come close to the beauty of Barry's wolf. When Barry lowered his head next to the hunter's head, I didn't think he was going to harm him seriously, but that's precisely what he did. Yes, I hated these men, but did they deserve severe punishment? Being so weak, I couldn't stand up and try to stop Barry. Instead, I just lowered my head and closed my eyes. Baby. I looked up and saw a wonderful naked Barry standing over me. My cheeks burned with embarrassment. Dear God, was he trying to shock me? He chuckled and ordered someone to throw him a pair of shorts. I was grateful when a pair of black shorts hit him in the chest. Letting out a breath of relief, I met his stare. I'm going to pick you up. There's a car outside. It'll take us home. I nodded, knowing that there was no way I could walk to the car. Barry's embrace was so warm I couldn't help but snuggle into his body. Once we were settled in the car, Alan began driving while Barry sat in the back with me. He placed a kiss on my forehead and continued to apologize. When I looked up at him, I noticed the anger and sadness that burned in his eyes. Placing my hands on his cheeks and forcing him to look down at me, I whispered, "You saved me, Barry. You have nothing to be sorry for." Chapter 15. Stacie POV. For once, I was happy to see Barry's house. It felt like a lifetime since I first saw it. I would never forget my experience from these last few horrendous days. Barry carried me to my bedroom and told me he was going to give me some time alone so I could shower. As soon as he closed the door, I pulled my dirty clothes off and threw them in the trash can. I was about to unclip my bra when the door opened, causing me to shriek. "What are those marks from?" Barry's voice roared. I gasped. I looked up at him to see that his gaze was directed at the bruises that covered my stomach. I swallowed the knot I could feel forming in my throat. "They're nothing. Please leave so I can shower." "Nothing? Stacie, your stomach is covered in blue and purple, and you expect me to believe they're nothing." Tears formed in my eyes as I remembered how that hunter kicked me in the stomach repeatedly after I told him I was human. He was a cruel man. "No, baby, don't cry. I'm sorry. I'm stupid, I shouldn't have asked." His warm arms wrapped around my body. Forgetting that I was half naked, I wrapped my arms around his neck and cried even more. I mean, when someone says don't cry, it usually makes you cry more. If it helps, you look appealing like this. Feel great too. His husky voice hit me right in the core. Pulling away from him, I laughed and lightly touched his chest. Being as weak as I was, obviously, the touch went unnoticed by Barry. "Get out and let me shower." He kissed my forehead before obeying my request. "I'll be back in 20 minutes. Try not to miss me, sweetheart." He winked and then he was gone. I took my time in the shower because I needed to scrub off how dirty I felt. My skin was bright red and the water was steaming. My ribs hurt intensely and I felt like any second I would collapse. Willing myself to turn off the water, I stepped out of the shower and dried my body. Finally stepping out of the bathroom, I was dressed in a pair of blue cotton sweatpants and a white t-shirt. I brushed my hair and left it down so it could dry faster. Not feeling hungry, I walked over to my bed. When I was fully under the blankets, there was a knock on my door. "Come in." I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw her walk in. "You're here." "I missed you so much," she cried. "Oh, I missed you more." Just then, someone cleared their throat. I looked up and shouted with happiness like a little girl. "I can't believe you're both here." Chapter 16. Stacie POV. I couldn't believe my parents were here. I hugged both my mom and my dad as we all cried. I miss them both so much. Mom later explained to me that Barry had called them in the morning and asked them if they'd like to come stay with us for a little while. I liked the fact that he cared enough to do this for me. I needed to see him and thank him. I let Mom and Dad know that I was giving Barry a chance. They were both happy for me since I told them that this was something I wanted to do. When I got hungry, I told my parents that we could go downstairs and have dinner. In the kitchen, Barry stood over the stove. I had to admit he looked great. As if sensing our presence, he turned around and smiled nervously in our direction. "So I suck at cooking. I hope it's okay that I ordered pizza?" My parents and I laughed. "Pizza sounds great." The nervous look on his face morphed into a smile of relief. Barry and I set the table while my parents returned to their room to freshen up, but knowing my parents, they left on purpose to give us some alone time. The doorbell rang just as I was about to thank Barry. He returned to the kitchen with 3 pizza boxes in his hands. "Don't you think that's too much?" He laughed, but didn't reply. My parents still hadn't come down, so I took that as my opportunity. Thank you for everything you've done for me, Barry. It all means so much to me, I don't know how I'll repay you. Barry froze. For a second, I thought I said something wrong. Stacie, the only thing you could do to repay me is let me know you're happy. I felt as if 1,000 butterflies were released in my stomach. Barry had a way with words, and he sure knew how to make a girl feel special. We were standing face to face, and for once I didn't feel nervous about being so close. Surprising myself and Barry, I stood on my toes and pressed my lips against his. Barry didn't waste a second and returned the kiss with just as much passion as I. A throat clearing brought us back to the real world. I turned around and found myself staring at my parents. Oh, this was embarrassing. Did I really just share my first kiss with Barry? Chapter 17. Barry POV. One kiss from her, and I was completely captivated. From the moment I met her, I knew she'd have me focused entirely on her. The kiss was definitely unexpected. I mean, of course, I valued it, and I've wanted to kiss her since the day I met her, but I was afraid of her reaction. I didn't want to alarm her or make her feel like I was pressuring her into doing something she didn't want to do. Everything I did was for her. Seeing her content made me content. She deserved the world. When I called her parents earlier, I knew they'd agree to come. The bond she had with her family was something I would never attempt to take away from her, and if they want to live here, I would allow them just for Stacie. After eating dinner, everyone returned to their bedrooms. Stacie's parents were tired from the long car ride here, and I'm sure Stacie was tired because she barely got any sleep these last 2 days. I went down to my office to sign a couple of papers and told Alan to take over for the rest of the night. I couldn't sleep. I wanted to go to Stacie's room. My wolf wanted to watch her while she slept, but judging from her reaction last time she woke up and found me next to her, I'm sure she wouldn't appreciate that. A knock on my door startled me. Everything had to be okay. I doubled patrol, and Alan was in control of the pack right now. I opened the door and saw Stacie standing there. Stacie? Is everything all right? She shook her head. What's wrong? Our gazes locked, and I could see the fear in her eyes. I couldn't sleep, and I feel safe when I'm around you. I was wondering if I could sleep here tonight. She didn't have to ask me twice. I reached out and took her hands in mine. Slowly walking to my bed, I flipped the blankets so we could get under them. Expecting her to want me far away, I was once again surprised when she wrapped her arms around my bare waist and rested her head on my chest. Wrapping my arms around her small, fragile body, I pulled her impossibly closer before kissing her forehead and whispering goodnight. Chapter 18. Stacie POV. I woke up to find myself sprawled all over Barry. My cheeks burned with embarrassment when I tried to pull away, but couldn't because his strong arms were holding me in place. The only reason I asked him if I could sleep in here was because I kept having nightmares last night. I felt like the men who injured me were haunting me. Shaking them out of my thoughts, I tried to forget about them. I lifted my head and rested my chin against his warm, muscled chest. His eyes were closed. I guessed he was still asleep. I took my time looking over his beautiful face. Why would a guy as handsome as him want me? I let my fingers run over his smooth jaw, thinking he was in a deep slumber, but I was proven wrong when his eyes fluttered open, and he gave me a breathtaking smile. Good morning, baby. I blushed at the fact that he caught me while I was touching him in his sleep, and mumbled a quick good morning in response. His deep chuckle filled the room, only causing me to all but die from embarrassing myself like that. Using the blankets as my shield, I pulled them over my head only to see precisely what Barry slept in: boxers. Dear Lord, he would end up giving me a heart attack one day. Quickly ripping the blankets away from me, I tumbled to the ground, groaning when I heard Barry's voice over me. He had gotten out of bed and stood over me, still only wearing his boxers that I was trying to escape from. Now, how did that happen? He was trying to hide his smile. I was trying to get away from you because you're pretty much only in boxers. Once again, I found myself loving the sound of his laugh. Sorry about that, baby. I got warm at night since you were wrapped around me tightly. He was enjoying teasing me like this. Feeling like my heart and body were heating up, I covered my cheeks and stood. Trying to think of a way to tease him back, the only thing I came up with was pretending I was upset with him. Well, if that's how you feel, I won't sleep in here anymore. I started walking away, but he grabbed my arm, causing me to turn to his warm chest. Don't be like that, babe, I was joking. I giggled, knowing that I had given him a slight fright. Forcing my arm out of his hold, I pecked him on his lips and skipped right into the bathroom. When I finished my shower, I hated myself for not bringing a change of clothes. Refusing to wear my damp underwear, I looked around Barry's bathroom and found a folded white shirt with a pair of black boxers like the ones he was wearing to bed. Did he put these in here for me? Slipping into them, I smiled at how big yet comfortable they were on me. The shirt ended just a little over my knees, and the boxers were slipping down. As soon as I opened the door, Barry was standing there as if he were waiting for me. His eyes were pitch black, which was intense. Thinking something was wrong, I asked him if everything was okay. He was silent for a bit before saying, "Don't ever tease me like that." He didn't even give me time to reply before he pressed his lips on mine and lifted me. His kiss was rough and demanding, but I liked the intensity. Feeling him place me on his bed, I wrapped my legs around his waist, forcing him to come down with me. When his hands slid under the shirt I was wearing, I knew that this might go far, but it would be worth it. Chapter 19. Stacie POV. His hands moved higher and higher until he reached the clasp of my bra. My breath hitched. Was I ready for this? Kisses were peppered from my mouth to my neck. My fingers tangled in Barry's soft, dark brown hair. I tugged it a bit, and Barry released a soft sound before returning his lips to mine. Multiple feelings were floating around in my body. I felt loved and cherished, and for once, I was comfortable with someone else. I had always been shy, but with Barry, I feel like I can be myself without him judging me. He would always be there for me, and that was why I wanted to show him my appreciation. I needed to show him that I was grateful for what he had done for me, but deep down, I was still nervous for my first time. Pushing all my thoughts away, I wrapped my legs around him tighter and pulled him even closer, making a sound when I felt just how much he was enjoying this. I was entirely thrown off guard when Barry pulled away. Isn't this what he wanted? If we don't stop now, nothing will be able to stop me, and I know you're not ready yet. Don't feel pressured. We have all the time in the world to do this. I just don't want you to feel like you have to do this for me. Surprisingly, I felt relief flood through my body. I guess I really wasn't ready for this. Feeling flushed, I stood up with the help of Barry and hugged him for making me feel like this. I had never had a boyfriend before, so I wasn't really sure how this whole relationship thing was supposed to work, but it was actually going pretty smoothly. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go take a cold shower. I laughed at him, but deep down, I felt concerned about being the reason for that. Remembering that my parents were staying here, I pulled away and told Barry I had to check on them. He nodded and reluctantly let me go. After changing into a pair of white jeans and a green shirt, I went in my parents' room, but they weren't there. When I checked in the kitchen and the living room, they weren't there either. Knowing them, I should have checked in the yard first. My dad sat on the green grass, while Mom lay across a blanket she had spread out. My parents and I always loved being outside. I walked over and joined them, giving them a big smile. How was your first night here? Dad swallowed his coffee before answering. The bed in our room is incredibly soft. I had to force your mother to get out of it. Mom touched his arm playfully. We went by your room before we came out, but you weren't there. Was everything all right? I blushed furiously. Suddenly, the grass had become very important to my eyes. I slept in Barry's room last night. I heard Mom's soft giggles. Dad was silent. When I looked up at him, he wasn't looking at me. Stacie, I know you're old enough now and you have every right to do what you want, but I want you to be careful. I don't care how old you get, I'll always see you as a little girl. Dad's words caused a few tears to come down, and of course, Barry chose that time to join us. Dad wiped his eyes and gave me a soft smile. Ignoring Barry's questioning stare, I walked over to my dad and hugged him. I loved my parents, and their opinions would always matter to me. Pulling away, I returned to my place next to Barry, where he still looked confused, but didn't say anything. I laughed at him before grabbing his hand and entwining our fingers. I wonder what he'd say if I asked him to let my parents stay. I'd have to ask him in private. Chapter 20. Barry POV. I still didn't understand why Stacie had been crying. I knew her parents would never say or do anything to hurt her, so I trusted that they'd never be the reason she was sad. Maybe I had taken it too far earlier. I shouldn't have done that. I don't know how I let my wolf act so intensely like that. I'd never let that happen again. However, it wasn't easy pulling away from her, especially when she smelled as amazing as she had. The feel of her soft skin had me never wanting to let go. Knowing all this about her only made it harder to stay away. So I wanted to take you on that first date today. Does that sound good? She froze mid-step and turned towards me. That light blush that I loved covered her cheeks. Yeah, I'll just tell my parents we won't be home for a couple hours. I forgot about that. I had already spoken to Stacie's parents and asked them if they wanted to live here from now on. They agreed. I asked them not to say anything about it to Stacie so I could surprise her. Actually, we'll be away for about 2 days. I was hoping that would be all right with you. She hesitated, but nodded her head. After getting that out of the way, I told her I had someone packing a small bag for her so she would be surprised when we reached the date's location. Around noon, our clothes were packed, and we were ready. Stacie said goodbye to her parents as if she wouldn't see them for a month. Trying not to let her see me laugh at her, I turned to Alan and made sure he understood the pack was in his hands for the next 2 days. Stacie thought she was dreaming when we were on the boat. I learned that she always loved water, but because her old town was pretty much in the middle of nowhere, she'd never had the chance to go on a boat ride before. The view is beautiful. Look at all the fish. Her voice was full of excitement. I was happy I had stuck to the boat ride. Barry, are you even listening to me? Of course I am. I chuckled. We could go for a swim if you want. Oh, I would love that. I'll go grab our bathing suits. Since I knew that Stacie would feel uncomfortable in a 2-piece bathing suit, I made sure nothing but 1-piece suits were packed in her bag. Pulling out a yellow one from her bag and a black pair of shorts from mine, I made my way back to my girl. From where I was standing, I could see her perfectly. My partner was beautiful. With the sun shining directly on her, anyone could see she had no flaws. I got lucky when I chose her. As if sensing my stare, she looked at me and started walking towards me. What took you so long? I thought you got lost. With that being said, she grabbed her suit out of my hands and walked away. Oh, so she was teasing me again. I mumbled a quick moment of gratitude, asking for enough control not to do anything foolish. I took off my shirt and pants and slipped into my swimming shorts. When Stacie stepped out from behind the door, I almost choked on my spit. I wanted to pull her close, but I had to wait. I just had to. Mind-linking the captain, I told him we were going for a short swim. He stopped the boat almost immediately. Holding Stacie's hand in mine, I took her to the edge of the boat, and we both jumped. Chapter 21. Stacie POV. After Barry and I swam, we both got hungry, so we decided we'd go back on the boat to eat. Barry repeatedly told me that I'd love the next part of our date, but refused to tell me exactly what we were doing. I never imagined I would actually get along so well with Barry. When we first met, I disliked him. He's always been attractive, but I couldn't stand the sight of him. I just knew him as the man who wanted to take me away from my family. Now I know that Barry isn't the person I thought he was. He's done so many things to prove that I honestly do mean something to him. I was definitely beginning to fall for him. The boat came to a stop in front of a beautiful beach with a hotel sitting right on it. The beach had absolutely no one on it. Where is everyone? I turned towards Barry and let out a breath of relief when I saw he put his shirt back on. His stomach was too distracting. This is my private beach. We're still on my territory, so I asked everyone to stay away from here today. That made sense. He seemed nervous. I could tell by the way his hand rubbed the back of his neck. We'll be staying in that hotel for the next 2 days. So that was why. My heart was beating at an irregular speed. I was a nervous wreck. Trying to control my breathing, I nodded my head, mumbling something I couldn't even understand. Nothing will happen. You can trust me. And I did. I trusted Barry. He would never intentionally hurt me. Can we go in there now? I need a shower. My hair was a mess from that swim. He wrapped his arm around my shoulders, and we made our way to our room. We didn't even check in. I guess this place really was his. Looking at the bag that was packed for me, I thanked whoever packed it because this was all stuff I'd actually wear. I thought he had someone pack random clothes for me, but he hadn't done that. The view from our room was breathtaking. Arms were wrapped around my waist, and a touch was placed right below my ear. I shivered, knowing that it was Barry. Turning around to face him, I wrapped my arms around his neck and thanked him for doing all this. For a first date, he really outdid himself. Thinking back to earlier yesterday morning, I realized that now would be a great time to ask him about my parents. Pulling away from him, not completely, but enough so I could see his face, I went right for it. Would it be okay for my parents to stay with us? I watched his face to see if he would push me away for asking a question like that, but nothing happened. He looked displeased. Pulling away completely. I'm sorry, that was a stupid question. Just forget about it. I willed myself not to cry. I haven't cried in so long, I was doing so well. Hearing his footsteps, I ran out of places to go. My arm was pulled into his hand. Stacie, I didn't get mad that you asked that. I'm upset that I forgot to tell you. I already talked to your parents. They're back home packing up their stuff. They'll be living in a house not too far from ours. Are you serious? He chuckled lightly. Yes, Stacie, I'm an alpha. I'm very serious. Not bothering to reply, I jumped on him, catching him off guard, causing us both to fall on the bed that was behind him. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't know how I could show you how much this means to me. Actually, I did. I lowered myself and placed his hands on my waist. Kissing from the skin, his V-neck revealed until I reached his mouth. I heard him make a sound. His fingers were digging into my skin. Barry tried pulling away, but each time I'd grab his face. He rolled us over so he was on top, knowing that he was going to try to stop this. I wrapped my legs around his waist. Barry, if you try to stop this, I will hurt you. It was an empty threat, but I needed him to know I was sure about this. I wanted to do this. His eyes were pitch black, and I knew he was having trouble controlling himself. Stacie, I have very little control over myself right now. I don't want to hurt you. We need to stop. I trust you, Barry. I know you won't hurt me. He didn't need any more convincing. My shirt was moved aside, and his lips were on mine. I could do this. I was ready. I loosened my legs from around Barry's waist so I could manage to get his shirt off. I needed to see his muscles, which that became my obsession. The clasp of my bra was undone, and Barry obliterated it, leaving me only in my shorts. I need to mark you. Like I said, it will feel intense at first, but pleasure will take over before you even feel the intensity. I remembered the conversation we had when he first told me how the partner bond is completed. I had feared being marked, but I was ready. I knew he had to do this. My fingers tangled in his hair while his mouth explored my neck. His teeth grazed a specific spot on my neck that had me making a sound louder than ever. His slight smile did not go unnoticed. Right here, he mumbled. Without warning, his teeth gently pressed into my skin, and just like Barry explained, the discomfort was minimal while pleasure overtook my body. Barry's face came into view, and I had to admit I'd never seen him smile so proudly. Beautiful, he whispered. His heated gaze gave me no reason to feel self-conscious. I made a sound when I felt his hands cut my chest. I could barely sit still when he lowered his mouth and gently touched my skin with his tongue. Once again, I found my fingers tangled in his soft hair. I loved all of this. Barry, let me take your clothes off. I didn't know where this confidence was coming from, but I needed him naked. When he pulled his mouth away, he looked at my chest as if he were admiring the signs he had left. His shirt finally hit the floor. As I reached for the waistband of his shorts, I pulled them down slowly enough for him to get agitated and kick them off. He obviously didn't like the fact that my shorts were still on because he didn't even bother to unbuckle them. I watched as the fabric came away, sliding down my legs. My underwear was next. I was lying without clothes on the bed while Barry stood over me, only in his boxers. Hooking my toes in the waistband of his boxers, I tried my best to get them off. His body was revealed, shocking me with his size. He was large. Would it fit? That's definitely going to feel intense. We could stop now if you want. Barry, if you say that one more time, I'm going back home and leaving you here. With no argument, he lowered himself, spreading my legs so his face was between them. This was when my nerves decided to attack me. I've wanted to be close to you here since the first day I saw you. I'm going to do that now, Stacie, and you're going to enjoy it. First, he was gentle, but as I started moving my lower body faster against his mouth, he started getting intense. I almost made a loud noise when his finger entered me. I need to prepare you, I'm getting you ready for me. Slow movements with one finger became slower with two fingers. Barry's mouth pressed a kiss against my lips before he pulled both fingers out and put them in his mouth. Pulling them out with a pop, he hummed delicious. You're ready for me now, aren't you, baby? I felt desperate when I nodded, but at this moment I was eager. I was keen for this beautiful man who treated me with respect. That night, Barry and I grew closer. I was his, and he was mine. Chapter 22. Stacie POV. One word could define how it felt to wake up in Barry's arms the next day. Bliss. Last night was the most incredible night of my entire life. I didn't regret anything that happened. Barry was a fantastic guy. I ran my index finger up his arm that was draped over my stomach to see if he was really asleep. Not getting a reaction out of him, I slowly moved his arm off my body, taking pride in managing to move it without waking him up. I smiled smugly at his sleeping form and slid out of bed, wincing when I felt how sore I was between my legs. Just as I took my first step, I was pulled back into bed. Damn it, Barry, I have to pee. So you weren't trying to run away? His face was gently placed between my neck and shoulder, where he had marked me last night. I shivered when he touched the mark. If I wanted to run away, I would have ran a long time ago. As if realizing that, his arms loosened, and he continued gently touching my neck with open-mouthed kisses. I miss you. Barry, I've been here with you all night. I know, but we lost time together while we slept. I can think of a couple ways to make up that time. His lower half was placed against my thigh. I made a sound when I considered making up for the time we'd lost. Remembering just how badly I needed to pee, I tried getting out of his arms. We can have a repeat of last night after I pee. I almost made a sound when he lightly bit down. Using my free hand, I grabbed his face and smiled when I saw the innocent look he was giving me. You up for a shower? I winked and jumped out of bed, hearing his footsteps behind me. Oh yeah, baby, I'm always up for you. He had to phrase it that way, didn't he? Laughing at the double meaning of his words, I finished my business and unlocked the door for him to come in. After a very long, intimate shower, Barry insisted we explore the area. We were at a mall, and even though I explained over and over again that I didn't need anything from here, he told me he wanted to buy me everything he thought would suit me. Let me spoil you. You deserve everything. I couldn't even count the number of times he'd said that today. I understood that he wanted to buy me whatever he thought I'd like, but I was never the type of girl who enjoyed shopping. Barry, I want to go lay on the beach. I think all I need now is a natural tan, and you can't buy me that. Knowing that I had convinced him, I mentally gave myself a pat on the back. My toes curled beneath the warm sand. I was enjoying the peace. Barry had gone back to our room to grab the sunscreen because, according to him, my skin was delicate and would end up getting fried by the sun. He was charmingly awkward, but he was my partner. While Barry took his time rubbing my back, I couldn't help but think that I was actually lucky when he chose me to be his partner. All he wanted to do was please me. He was patient, sweet, and caring. Half the guys back home would have just been focused on intimacy and left right away, but Barry was different. Barry? I just want to thank you for everything. I never knew you were like this. I was under the impression that you were some kind of imposing figure. I'm sorry for judging you before giving you a chance. Stacie, I should be thanking you for giving me the opportunity to prove myself to you. You're the reason I'm like this. I care about you more than I've ever cared about anyone else, and I know this may feel soon, but I love you, Stacie. I'm proud of you for being strong enough to put up with me and my responsibilities. Love? Love was such a powerful word. The only people I'd ever said the words "I love you" to were my parents. I was frozen in my spot. Love. Not just a word, but an emotion that was so strong. I didn't even know how to respond. I knew I was developing feelings for Barry, but did I love him? You don't have to say anything back yet. I just wanted to let you know how much you mean to me. I love you and I'm not ashamed of it. Still not knowing what to say, I turned around and hugged him. I may not love Barry yet, but he sure deserved to know he meant something to me. Chapter 23. Stacie POV. Going back home was bittersweet. I wanted to stay here and enjoy the beautiful area, but I wanted to go back home and see my parents. Barry made promises that we would come back here soon. Yesterday, after Barry admitted his true feelings for me, I stayed silent. I knew I had feelings for him, but could I call them love? Barry was okay with my silence. He told me not to feel obligated to say to him that I loved him, and he wanted me to be comfortable when I admitted my real feelings towards him. After Barry all but dragged me off the boat, we were sitting in the same car that had dropped us off. I couldn't get a hold of Mom and Dad, no matter how many times I called them. At first, I was worried that something had happened. Maybe hunters had taken them, as they had taken me. Finally managing to calm down, Barry reminded me that they went back home to pack their belongings and that they'd be at their new home tomorrow. Since it was just Barry and me, I wanted to do something special for him. I'm going to cook dinner tonight. He smiled slightly. Yeah. Yes, Barry. I told you before I'm a good cook. Never doubted that, baby. I just don't want you to tire yourself. We could order takeout if you'd like. No, I don't want takeout. I want to cook for you. Fine, but only if I get to kiss the cook. We'll see about that. Now leave so I can get started. With one last kiss, he left the room. Here goes nothing. Pulling the chicken out of the oven, I placed it in the middle of the kitchen table. Barry had literally no wine in the house, so I went for my next best option and grabbed 2 Cokes out of the fridge. Running to my closet, I changed into a black and purple dress. I knocked on Barry's office door before slipping inside. He looked up from his papers and smiled when he saw it was me. Dinner's ready. He put his papers down and walked towards me, pushing me against the door and kissing me as if his life depended on it. I missed you. Catching my breath, I blushed and laughed because I was only away from him for like 2 hours. Come on, I don't want the food to get cold. Barry's eyes were intense as he trapped me between his body and the door. I can think of something else to eat. Of course, at that moment, Alan walked into the room. I couldn't even look at him when I heard him chuckle. I'll be in the kitchen, don't take too long. Running out of his office, I could barely breathe. How embarrassing. Alan had heard what he said. Hopefully, he didn't understand it, but who was I kidding? Chapter 24. Barry POV. I felt Stacie's fingers gently touching up and down my torso. I had learned that my stomach muscles were her favorite physical feature. Opening one eye, I looked at her face, and she seemed to be in deep thought about something. I knew what she was thinking about. I probably shouldn't have told her I loved her. She feels concerned because she still hasn't said it back, but I don't mind. I know she doesn't feel the strong bond with me that I do. Lightly rubbing my palm over her back, she looked up at me. I'm sorry, Barry. Did I wake you up? Baby, haven't you learned that I'm always awake before you? Her light giggle was enough to make me smile. Throwing her leg over my body, she wrapped her arms around my waist and hugged me tighter than she's ever hugged me. I'm sorry I'm acting immaturely. I just want to be sure before I say anything. Love, I want you to stop thinking about it. You don't have to say anything yet. Remember, you're stuck with me forever. Forever. She whispered, and I felt her smile against my chest. Forever, I stated again, causing her to laugh louder. Okay, I get it, she said while laughing. Now, let's go eat breakfast, I'm starving. Yes, Your Majesty. I decided to take her out for breakfast. She cooked dinner yesterday, and I thought she deserved a break. My pack members loved Stacie. I could see the way they looked at her, and the way they respected her. I felt my pride swell up seeing how well she got along with everyone. She was perfect. After eating breakfast at the pack diner, Stacie insisted on going to the park. We walked down a small hill hand in hand. The young wolf pups shifted and played around with each other while we watched over them. Stacie's face was full of excitement and curiosity. I knew she had questions about my kind, but I didn't want to overload her with information that she didn't have to worry about. As the day went by, I was happy to hear that Stacie's parents had arrived at their new house. Keeping that bit away from Stacie until we got to their new home, I watched the confused expression on her face until she finally saw her parents. Mom, Dad, I'm so glad you're back. I can't believe Barry is allowing you both to move on to his territory. Deciding to give them privacy, I told Stacie I'd head back home and pick her up later. I headed towards my office and called Alan, explaining that I had signed the papers to expand our land. Instantly, he replied, telling me that Alpha Lonnie didn't want us expanding my pack grounds because that would make his land smaller. Lonnie wanted to come here and talk about it so we could figure out something reasonable. Agreeing to Lonnie's request, I scheduled a meeting for tomorrow, knowing that Lonnie would be here by then. Chapter 25. Stacie POV. A couple of weeks had passed by, and from what I heard, I knew an alpha was coming to visit. Apparently, he was supposed to see a while back, but the attack on his pack delayed it. Barry told me it was nothing serious and that he and the visiting alpha are actually good friends. If Barry was so relaxed, I knew there was no reason for me to be stressed. Alpha Lonnie has entered pack grounds. Alan and a few other guards were going to escort the alpha here. Barry wrapped his arms around my body and brought me close enough for him to take my scent in. So, is this alpha rude? You know how I feel about rude people. Barry chuckled. Don't worry about anyone being rude when it comes to you. I'll protect you from anyone who disrespects you. Don't talk about harming anyone. I shivered. About half an hour passed when Alan came back, leading a man and a woman towards us. Barry hugged the man, and I shook hands with the woman. She was beautiful. I couldn't help but feel underdressed in just a pair of jeans and a t-shirt. The alpha looked down at me and shook my hand. Nice to meet you. I'm glad Barry finally found his partner. This is my partner, Rose. Nice to meet the both of you. I made sure I spoke clearly. I didn't want to embarrass Barry. Barry and Alpha Lonnie started their meeting right away, leaving me with Rose. She was very friendly, and I learned that she was human too. I told her about the journey Barry and I went through, and how everything worked out fine in the long run. We laughed at how much we had in common. Turns out she went through something similar, except any hunters didn't take her. I hoped it would stay that way. While Rose and I were talking, I felt a wave of nausea hit me. Running to the bathroom, I threw up almost everything I had eaten for breakfast. Thinking it was food poisoning, I decided to lie down. Rose sat on the sofa across from me and decided I had to see a doctor. I told her not to think too much of it, but she insisted I mean Barry. Not wanting to interrupt the meeting, I told her I'd wait until it was over, and the guys stepped out of the office. Rose and I started dinner. The weather outside was beautiful. We set everything up and decided to eat out on the patio. Touching Barry's door, I told him that Rose and I had cooked dinner and would be waiting for both of them. Knowing the way they think, they both got up because they didn't want to leave us hungry and waiting. Lonnie sat down next to Rose and kissed her lips. I saw the faint color of pink cover her cheeks as she lowered her head. Smiling at the couple, I felt Barry pull me closer to him while he scooped some food into his plate. Just as I was about to start eating, I caught a whiff of the salad dressing and felt my stomach flip. Pushing Barry's arm off me, I jumped off my chair and ran towards the sink, since it was closer than the bathroom. Feeling Barry's presence behind me, I washed the sink and turned on the garbage disposal, cleaning it all up. Walking over to the cabinet with all the cleaning supplies, I grabbed a bottle and sprayed the sink, ignoring Barry while he told me he was taking me to a doctor. Stacie, stop cleaning. I'm calling the pack doctor to come check on you. I'm fine. I'm probably just coming down with the flu or something. No, Stacie, you're not fine. I don't think the pack doctor will know how to treat you since you're human. I'm going to have to take you to the hospital. I'm perfectly fine, Barry. You're going. Don't think I won't carry you there, because I will, and you know I will. Knowing I wasn't going to win this argument, I agreed. Just let me clean this up and change my clothes, then we'll go. I'll clean up, go get changed. Lonnie and Rose refused to let us go alone. Rose was worried since I had thrown up twice, and Lonnie didn't want to leave Barry alone while I got checked. The hospital's emergency room was surprisingly empty. Only 2 people were ahead of me. I squeezed Barry's hand when I saw how worried he looked. I'm okay, don't stress over this. He nodded his head, but didn't say anything. Stacie Morgan? The four of us stood up, and I saw the look the nurse gave us. That's me. I spoke up. Right this way. After a couple of tests were run, I waited for the doctor to come in. Barry still looked like a worried mother. I giggled at the thought. What are you laughing about? Finally, he spoke. Barry, you need to stop worrying over this. You're reminding me of my mom. Lonnie and Rose laughed at Barry's flushed face. The doctor stepped into the room and smiled at all of us. He looked like he was in his late 40s. After introducing ourselves, he pulled out the small chair that was his and opened the file that was in his hand. He looked up, smiling at me. Congratulations, you're pregnant. This time, Barry was smiling and I was the one who looked worried. Chapter 26. Barry POV. Hearing that Stacie was pregnant was probably the best news I've heard in my entire life. The woman I loved was giving me a family. Shoving Lonnie and the doctor out of my way, I picked up Stacie and hugged her. Her arms slowly wrapped around my neck, but I could sense her uneasiness. Of course, she's nervous. I mean, she still feels pressure from the whole I love you situation, but I would make her feel comfortable with all this. I was even more protective of her now, doubling the guards around the house and keeping her close to me at all times. Barry, I'm pregnant, not fragile. We could go on with our lives like we've been doing. I know you're not fragile, baby, I'm just paranoid, especially since there's a baby inside you now. Her eyes softened before she nodded in understanding. I'm going to take a shower, you go finish some paperwork. I'll be quick, I promise. With a slight touch on my lips, she managed to get away and lock the bathroom door so that I wouldn't follow her. I was in my office with Lonnie and his partner, Rose. Rose explained to me that it's normal for Stacie to feel nervous. She's young and this is her first child. Knowing that she was right, I thought of a way to prove to Stacie that I'd always be right by her side. I'd never leave her alone, primarily to raise our child alone. After saying our goodbyes to Lonnie and Rose and making them promise we'd all get together soon, Stacie and I started dinner. Not wanting Stacie to get tired, I convinced her to sit on the couch while I decided we'd have spaghetti today. We ate in silence. It was making me anxious. I knew she wasn't ready for this and was beginning to blame myself for not being more careful. Sweetheart, I know you're nervous. Trust me, I am too, but we can do this. We'll be great parents. I've seen you with the Pax children. They love you and you love them. You're going to be an amazing mother. I know you probably feel like you're under a lot of pressure right now, but I will stand by you through anything. I love you, baby. I don't want you to think that I'm just going to leave you. That will never happen. Tears were running down her face. My wolf was angry at me for being the reason for her tears, and I was furious with myself. But then she started laughing, and I mean really laughing. I didn't know what was happening. 1 second ago, she was crying intensely, and now she's laughing? Barry, I'm nervous about the pregnancy, but that's not what's been on my mind all day. I was thinking of the right way to do this, but I guess I already kind of ruined it. I wanted to tell you earlier, but I got sick, then we went to the hospital, and I found out I was pregnant. I guess I should stop talking aimlessly and just say it. Well, here it goes. I love you, Barry White, and I'm not just saying that because you're the father of my child. I'm saying it because you're always there for me. You're willing to go through anything to see me happy, and that's what love is. I'm happy you chose me as your partner. We may have started off on a bad note, but you've proved to me that it was all worth it, and if I could go back in time, I wouldn't change a thing. You and this child are my life now. I'm not afraid of anything because of you. You're all I need to feel like I can accomplish whatever I want. I felt like I was in a movie. Did she really say all of that? Was I dreaming? I felt a tear slip out of my eye and winced. I'm an alpha, and if my pack saw me crying right now, they'd probably laugh at me, but I didn't care. My Stacie had finally admitted that she loved me, and she did it most perfectly. Standing up so fast that the chair I had been sitting on hit the floor, I rushed over to her side and picked her up, setting her on the counter. You're perfect. I don't know how I got so lucky when I chose you, but I'm happy the moon goddess was watching out for me. Gently touching her face and wiping her tears with my thumb, I continued. Look at me, you made me cry, you made Alpha Berry cry, and I'm not even ashamed of it. I laughed at myself. Forgetting about dinner, I held her close to our room, where we showed each other just how much affection we had for one another. Epilogue. Stacie POV. 6 years later. But Daddy, I don't want a brother. I want a sister. Sora, honey, stop complaining. You'll have a sister when Mommy and I decide to have another baby. Mommy said you buy babies. How do you have a baby? Barry's worried face begged me to save him from our little girl. Sora, come help Mommy clean up your toys. Barry sent me a smile, thanking me for saving him from the awkward conversation with our 6-year-old. Walking over to him, I questioned him about having another baby. I told you 2 is enough, Barry. I don't think I can handle 3 young children. I smile. Even though I loved children more than anything, I didn't think I could take care of 3. I just want to have Corey and take a break for a while. Come on, Stacie, don't be difficult. I've always wanted to have a big family. I understand you want to take a break after Corey, but we're still young. We'll stop trying until Corey is 5. I think 5 years is long enough of a break. He knew he could convince me. He always does this. After I had Sora, I told him I thought 1 child was enough, but he convinced me that we should try again until I had a boy, because he wanted him to take over the alpha position when he gets older. Here I am now, 7 months pregnant. Luckily, he got his wish and we are expecting a baby boy. Deciding I'd rather not argue about this, especially with all these pregnancy hormones, I walked over to Sora and watched her put the last of her toys away. Feeling arms wrap around my round belly, I knew it was Barry. Baby, I'm sorry if I upset you. I promise I won't bring it up anymore. Daddy, why do you call Mommy baby? She's old? Barry and I laughed together. I am not old, Sora, and Daddy is silly, that's why he calls me baby. Sora giggled and continued calling Barry silly until she went to bed. Tucking her in bed like we did every night, we switched on her princess nightlight, knowing she'd be unhappy waking up and seeing that they forgot to do so. I still don't know how I got so lucky. Barry whispered as we watched our baby girl sleep. Neither do I. I replied honestly. I have a beautiful family that is only growing. He smiled, looking at me, Sora, and back at my stomach. Placing one hand over my belly and the other on Sora's sleeping form, we smiled at each other, thankful for loving each other enough to create such a wonderful life for our family. My girls and my little man. I'd be nothing without you.